how to win in fantasy football. That is the question everybody seems to have on their mind around this time of year when football is starting up. What is going on, y'all? Fox Sports Talk back at it with another video talking, of course, some NFL here to talk a little fantasy football. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe. Click the button down below because I do post daily videos. Make sure to turn on my post notifications and follow me on my social media links down below and on the screen for my Twitter and my Instagram. With that being said, you guys see the title of the video. So if you've been invited by a work league, if you've been invited by your friends, or you're starting a league, you want to know how to win in fantasy football. Well, I got you. That's what this video is here for. So I'm going to give you 5 tips on how to win your league every single season. Okay, folks? And here's the thing. The beauty of this is the fact that doesn't matter what level of player you are, whether it's beginner, mediocre, hard, middle, old, young, whatever it may be. As long as you have a basic understanding of how fantasy football works, these tips will make sure that you are in the best possible position to win your league. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Before I do so, if you do want to join my league, my FST league, which I run every year, the link is going to be down below. It's first come, first serve. There's going to be about 20 spots in the league. So go ahead and sign up down below for the league. There's going to be prizes for first place, second place, and third place. You don't want to miss out. Trophies, prizes, money prizes, jerseys. What I did a ton past 2 seasons. I won the league my first year. Didn't win last year. Didn't go quite as well. I had a lot of injuries, but it should be a lot of fun. So if you want to be in the league, again, make sure to sign up as soon as possible because the spots are running out. Links down below. So without further ado, let's get started. So I would say my number 1 tip is to know your league's rules. Okay, simple enough, but a lot of people overstate this, or I should say understate this. A lot of people tend to forget about this, okay? Because to me, the first question I'm always asking when my friends ask me, hey, do you want to join my league, or do you want to be in this league? What type of league is it? Is it PPR or non-PPR? And PPR basically means point per reception, okay? So PPR versus non-PPR. And why this is big? Because this is going to determine my entire draft strategy, okay? If I don't know if it's a PPR or non-PPR league and I'm about to draft, chances are I'm probably not going to win in that league because my draft changes completely based on of which of these type of leagues it is. So I'm giving you an example right here. PPR means point per reception. So basically, if you catch the football, you get a point, okay? And non-PPR means you don't get a point for a catch. And so to give you an example, so let's say you have a running back, okay? And he basically has, 10 carries for 100 yards, okay, which is actually very good. So you know what? Let me make this 20 carries for 100 yards, okay? And he catches 3 catches for 30 yards, okay? So in a PPR format, if we were to do PPR, this would be 100 yards is going to be 10 points. So that's going to be a point per every 10 yards, let's say in your league. So that's 10 right there. 3 catches is 3 points. And then 30 yards catching is another 3. So you're going to end up with 16, okay? 16 fantasy points, okay? Fantasy points. And let's take a wide receiver, okay? Let's take a wide receiver who catches 8 balls for the same amount of yardage, so 130. And that is 8 points for 8 catches, and then 13 points for the 130 yards. So that's 11, 21. So you tell me, there should be points. So now you tell me, usually people say take running back first, right? In a PPR league, who would you rather run at this point? 16 points or 21 points by the wide receiver? Probably want the wide receiver, or you definitely want the wide receiver. And that is the difference here, because knowing your league settings is so crucial to be able to implement and come up with a draft strategy, okay? Because people always say take running backs first. No, not necessarily. You know what? If there's, decent running backs, but I've got elite receivers left on the board, it's a PPR league, I am taking the elite receivers, folks, okay? And non-PPR essentially means you don't get the points for the catches here, okay? So we take this out, this would just be 13 points, and we take this out, and this would just be 100 points, okay? Or 10 points, excuse me. And so that is the difference here, and you need to know your league settings. That is the number one rule by far. That's going to determine your draft strategy. Let's move on to number 2, and it may seem pretty obvious, but it can't be understated again how important it is. Win the waiver wire, folks. And like I said again, it might seem obvious to you guys, but I would say without a doubt, 75% of the leagues I've played in, I've won because of the waiver wire, not because of a good draft. Okay, my entire roster, if you compare it from the last week of fantasy football to the first week, 3/4 is completely different because it's guys that I picked up from the waiver wire. And what I mean by that is, again, follow the first rule, know your league settings. So if you have waivers, what days does the waiver wire start? What times can you put in your claims? Make sure to find out how the order goes, everything else in between, and go ahead and make sure, I don't care if you don't have a player you don't need, make sure to always put a waiver wire down for a player, because to me, there's always ways to improve your roster. This is the number one way to improve your roster, not the draft. Draft is a great start, but the way to improve your roster is the waiver wire. A lot of people want to talk about trades and whatnot. Waiver wire is the best way to do it, folks. And I'm telling you, there's always gems to find. There's always guys that you can stash. There's always guys you can pick up that are upside guys. Win the waiver wire. At number 3, I don't know how many leagues I've been in that make this mistake every year. Stream, defense, and kicker. Okay, folks? Please, please, please do not waste roster spots, especially early draft spots that I mentioned. Did I say roster spots? I meant draft spots. Do not waste early draft spots in your draft by drafting a defense, by drafting a kicker. Rather, draft all your skill position players, and then at the very end, go look on the waiver wire and stream a defense. So let me give you an example, okay? So your draft happens, you go through your draft, 12, 13, 14 spots, and you fill it all with skill players. And then at the very end, what you do is you go to the waiver wire, okay? And you see a team that's playing a very poor offense. So let's say the Titans defense. A lot of people don't think the Titans defense will pay attention to it. It's a very underrated defense, okay? And they're playing, Buffalo, the Bills. They're playing the Washington Redskins, okay? A very poor offense. You can go ahead and stream that Titans defense for week 1. And then week 2, let's say they're playing the Saints, which is a high-powered offense, drop them and go ahead and pick up another defense that's playing a very poor offense and rinse and repeat. Same thing you can do for a kicker. Play a team that's an easy opponent on the defensive side of the ball where your offense can go and put up points and a lot of field goals and a lot of extra points, okay? That is the beauty of it. You can do it every single week. You don't even have to waste your roster spot, because here's my thing. Even if you pick one of the elite defenses like the Bears, you pick the Ravens, there are going to be matchups in the season where they will struggle, without a doubt. It's football. Anything can happen any given Sunday. I'm streaming defenses and kickers. You should too. At number 4, draft high upside, if I can spell, high upside or handcuffs. Okay? What do I mean by this? And this should say and or handcuffs. What do I mean by this? Draft high upside guys and or handcuffs. Well, when you get to the later rounds in the draft, a lot of people tend to go with familiar names that they, of course, know, big names. But those big names might not be the same productive players, or they might not have the ceiling that you need. Because here's the thing. When you're playing fantasy football and any given week, you want guys that have the ability to pop. You want guys that have the ability to explode. And their margin of, scoring isn't just, 0 to 10 points every single week, and they'll never get more than that. But they have the ability to, any given week, give you 30. Now, that's very rare, but I'm talking about a perfect example of this would be backup to starting running back. So let's say you have a starter, okay? And he gets hurt, if you have the backup, which is the handcuff for that starter, he's going to immediately be able to give you a starting level production for whatever that team is, okay? So that is a high upside guy because you've drafted a handcuff, and in any instance the starter gets hurt, you're going to be able to have a guy that can give you that upside, because here's the thing, we want to maximize our opportunities, right? If you want to maximize it, you don't do it by drafting guys that don't have much of a ceiling. And again, with high upside guys, we're talking about rookies. We're talking about guys that have the ability to win the starting job that people don't know about. Gems, stashes. Do your research. Draft high upside guys. Don't go for the safe pick every single time. And again, this is more so for later in the draft, because to me, again, in the early parts of the draft, you can't risk as much. You want to be able to solidify your team. But in the later rounds, you want to go ahead and draft high upside guys that have the ability to become your second or third starting receiver, or your second or third running back, or your tight end, or whatnot. So go ahead and draft high upside guys. And finally, at number 5, the golden rule that I always start with when anybody asks me a tip. If you ask me one tip in fantasy football, this would be my tip. Wait on QB. Wait on quarterback, please, please, please. And I don't know why people don't understand this, because if you look at these tips, this to me is the simplest one of them all. Wait on quarterback. Why? It's a numbers game, folks. A lot of people want to just take a look at the fact that quarterbacks are the biggest names in football. We get that. And everybody knows quarterbacks, especially the casual fans. They only know quarterbacks. Well, there's 32 starting quarterbacks, okay? So if I've got a stacked team, but I've got a poor quarterback, he can still give me a third or even half of the production of a top-level quarterback, and the rest of my elite skill position players will even it out, and I'll beat you every single time, 10 times out of 10, and twice on Sundays, folks. I guarantee you that. So to me, yes, I love Aaron Rodgers. Yes, I love Tom Brady. Yes, I love Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes. The list goes on and on. But I am not drafting them in the first, second, third round. Not even the fourth round. To me, here's the thing. Technically, I could draft in the fourth round. But the point being is, I'm just not taking QB until the later rounds. I'm just not doing it. There's too many guys with high upside. Take a look at the Bears quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky. He had one of the highest, fantasy points of any quarterbacks last season, and he was essentially undrafted. The year Cam Newton won MVP, he was on the waiver wire. Patrick Mahomes last year was on a bunch of waiver wires. So to me, you wait on QB because there's always gems you can find. Folks, there are 32 starting quarterbacks. I guarantee you, you will be able to be more successful drafting the stud running backs, stud receivers, stud tight ends. Wait on the quarterback. Get a low middle round quarterback. Even a guy like a Nick Foles, who's starting for the Jaguars this year, he could give you the production, the same production that maybe like Phillip Rivers could give you. Just giving an example. Week to week it's fluctuating. The point being is the quarterback is so deep. There's so many of them that it's just not worth it to take a high quarterback. Because here's the thing: the second you take a high quarterback, you are going to get a second, third level receiver, a second, third level running back, a poor tight end, and your whole roster construction is going to mess up. So to me, you got to wait on quarterback.